Tic-tac-toe is a paper and pencil game for two players, X and O, who take turns marking the spaces in a 3x3 grid. The player who succeeds in placing 3 of their marks in a horizontal, vertical, or diagonal row wins the game. The following example game is won by the first player. Players soon discover that best play from both parties leads to a draw. Hence, tic-tac-toe is most often played by young children. Because of the simplicity of tic-tac-toe, it is often used as a pedagogical tool for teaching the concepts of good sportsmanship and the branch of artificial intelligence that deals with the searching of game trees. It is straightforward to write a computer program to play tic-tac-toe perfectly, to enumerate the 765 essentially different positions, or the 26,830 possible games up to rotations and reflections on this space. The game can be generalized to an M-N-K game in which two players alternate placing stones of their own color on an M times N board, with the goal of getting K of their own color in a row. Tic-tac-toe is the game. History. An early variant of tic-tac-toe was played in the Roman Empire, around the 1st century BC. It was called turni lapali, and instead of having any number of pieces, each player only had 3. Thus they had to move them around to empty spaces to keep playing. The game's grid markings have been found chalked all over Rome. However, according to Claudia Zaslavsky's book Tic-tac-toe, and other 3-in-a-row games from ancient Egypt to the modern computer, tic-tac-toe could originate back to ancient Egypt. Another closely related ancient game is Three Men's Morris, which is also played on a simple grid and requires 3 pieces in a row to finish. The different names of the game are more recent. The first print reference to noughts and crosses, the British name, appeared in 1864. In his novel Can You Forgive Her? 1864, Anthony Trollope refers to a clerk playing tic-tac-toe. The first print reference to a game called tic-tac-toe occurred in 1884, but referred to a children's game played on a slate, consisting in trying with the eyes shut to bring the pencil down on one of the numbers of a set, the number hit being scored. Tic-tac-toe may also derive from tic-tac, the name of an old version of backgammon first described in 1558. The U.S. renaming of noughts and crosses as tic-tac-toe occurred in the 20th century. In 1952, OXO for the EDSAC computer became one of the first known video games. The computer player could play perfect games of tic-tac-toe against a human opponent. In 1975, tic-tac-toe was also used by MIT students to demonstrate the computational power of Tinker Toy elements. The Tinker Toy computer, made out of only Tinker Toys, is able to play tic-tac-toe perfectly. It is currently on display at the Museum of Science, Boston. Combinatorics. Despite its apparent simplicity, tic-tac-toe requires detailed analysis to determine even some elementary combinatory facts, the most interesting of which are the number of possible games and the number of possible positions. A position is merely a state of the board, while a game usually refers to the way a terminal position is obtained. Naive counting leads to 19,683 possible board layouts, and 362,880 possible games. However, 2 matters much reduce these numbers. The game ends when 3 in a row is obtained. The number of X's is always either equal to or exactly 1 more than the number of O's. The complete analysis is further complicated by the definitions used when setting the conditions, like board symmetries, number of terminal positions when considering only the state of the board, and after taking into account board symmetries. There are only 138 terminal board positions. Assuming that X makes the first move every time, 91 distinct positions are won by, 44 distinct positions are won by, 3 distinct positions are drawn. Strategy. A player can play a perfect game of tic-tac-toe if they choose the first available move from the following list, each turn, as used in Newell and Simon's 1972 tic-tac-toe program. Win. If the player has 2 in a row, they can place a third to get 3 in a row. Block. If the opponent has 2 in a row, the player must play the third themselves to block the opponent. Fork. Create an opportunity where the player has 2 threats to win, blocking an opponent's fork. Option 1. The player should create 2 in a row to force the opponent into defending, as long as it doesn't result in them creating a fork. For example, if X has a corner, O has the center, and X has the opposite corner as well, O must not play a corner in order to win. Option 2. If there is a configuration where the opponent can fork, the player should block that fork. Center. A player marks the center, opposite corner. If the opponent is in the corner, the player plays the opposite corner. Empty corner. The player plays in a corner square. Empty side. The player plays in a middle square on any of the 4 sides. The first player, who shall be designated X, has 3 possible positions to mark during the first turn. Superficially, it might seem that there are 9 possible positions, corresponding to the 9 squares in the grid. However, by rotating the board, we will find that in the first turn, every corner mark is strategically equivalent to every other corner mark. The same is true of every edge mark. For strategy purposes, there are therefore only 3 possible first marks: corner, edge, or center. Player X can win or force a draw from any of these starting marks. However, playing the corner gives the opponent the smallest choice of squares which must be played to avoid losing. The second player, who shall be designated O, must respond to X's opening mark in such a way as to avoid the forced win. Player O must always respond to a corner opening with a center mark, and to a center opening with a corner mark. An edge opening must be answered either with a center mark, a corner mark next to the X, or an edge mark opposite the X. Any other responses will allow X to force the win. Once the opening is completed, O's task is to follow the above list of priorities in order to force the draw, or else to gain a win if X makes a weak play, to guarantee a draw for O. However, if X does not play center opening move, take center, and then a side middle, this will stop any forks from happening. If O plays a corner, a perfect X player has already played the corner opposite their first and proceeds to play a third corner, stopping O's 3 in a row and making their own fork. However, if X is not a perfect player and has played a corner and then a side middle, O should not play the opposite side middle as the second move, because then X is not forced to block in the next move and can fork. If O takes center, X should take the corner opposite the original, and proceed as detailed above. The only way for O to force a tie against a perfect X player is if O plays middle and then a side middle. If O plays a corner or side middle first, X is guaranteed to win. If corner, X simply takes any of the other 2 corners, and then the last, a fork. If O plays a side middle, X takes the only corner that O's blocking won't make 2 in a row. O will block, but the best of the other 2 will be seen by X, and O is forked. If X plays center opening move, O should pay attention and not allow a fork. X should play a corner first. Variations. Many board games share the element of trying to be the first to get 10 in a row, including 3 men's Morris, 9 men's Morris, Penta, Gomoku, Cubic, Connect 4, Corto, Gobalt, Order and Chaos, Toss Across, and Mojo. Tic-tac-toe is an instance of an M-N-K game, where 2 players alternate taking turns, as they do in tic-tac-toe, on an M times N board until one of them gets K in a row. Harry's generalized tic-tac-toe is an even broader generalization. Other variations of tic-tac-toe include three-dimensional tic-tac-toe on a 3x3x3 board. In this game, the first player has an easy win by playing in the center if two people are playing. Another variant, cubic, is played on a 4x4x4 board. It was solved by Orr and Potashnik in 1980. Higher dimensional variations are also possible. In Misera tic-tac-toe, the player wins if the opponent gets n in a row. A 3x3 game is a draw. More generally, the first player can draw or win on any board whose side length is odd, by playing first in the central cell and then mirroring the opponent's moves. There is a game that is isomorphic to tic-tac-toe, but on the surface appears completely different. Two players in turn say a number between 1 and 9. A particular number may not be repeated. The game is won by the player who has said three numbers whose sum is 15. Plotting these numbers on a 3x3 magic square shows that the game exactly corresponds with tic-tac-toe, since three numbers will be arranged in a straight line if and only if they total 15. Another isomorphic game uses a list of 9 carefully chosen words, for instance, eat, bee, less, air, bits, lip, soda, book, and lot. Each player picks one word in turn, and to win, a player must select 3 words with the same letter. The words may be plotted on a tic-tac-toe grid in such a way that a 3-in-a-row line wins. Numerical tic-tac-toe is a variation invented by the mathematician Ronald Graham. The numbers chapter 1 to 9 are used in this game. The first player plays with the odd numbers, the second player plays with the even numbers. All numbers can be used only once. The player who puts down 15 points in a line wins. In the 1970s, there was a 2-player game made by Triangle Toys and Games called Check Lines, in which the board consisted of 11 holes arranged in a geometrical pattern of 12 straight lines, each containing 3 of the holes. Each player had exactly 5 tokens and played in turn, placing 1 token in any of the holes. The winner was the first player whose tokens were arranged in 2 lines of 3. If neither player had won by the 10th turn, subsequent turns consisted of moving one of one's own tokens to the remaining empty hole, with the constraint that this move could only be from an adjacent hole. Quantum tic-tac-toe allows players to place a quantum superposition of numbers on the board, i.e., the player's moves are superpositions of plays in the original classical game. This variation was invented by Alan Goff of Novatia Labs. English names. The game has a number of English names: tic-tac-toe, 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 or tic-tac-toe, noughts and crosses or noughts and crosses, XEOZYs, XSIEOZs, X's and O's. In the United States, the name noughts and crosses is not well understood, as the word nought is archaic in usage and X-shaped objects are not generally called crosses except in the case of specific named crosses like Street Patrick's Cross. Sometimes, the games tic-tac-toe and Three Men's Morris are confused with each other. In popular culture, in the movie War Games, a computer, Joshua, learned through a tic-tac-toe analogy that nuclear war is unwinnable. The BBC's test card F image includes a picture of a game. In the updated version, test card J, the game's X indicates the exact center of the screen. Various game shows have been based on tic-tac-toe and its variants. On Hollywood Squares, 9 celebrities filled the cells of the tic-tac-toe grid. Players put symbols on the board by correctly agreeing or disagreeing with the celebrity's answer to a question. Variations of the show include storybook squares and hip-hop squares. The British version was Celebrity Squares. Australia had various versions under the names of Celebrity Squares, Personality Squares and All-Star Squares. In tic-tac-toe, players put symbols up on the board by answering questions in various categories, which shuffle after each player's turn. In Beat the Teacher, contestants answer questions to win a turn to influence a tic-tac-toe grid. On The Price is Right, Several national variants feature a pricing game called Secret X, in which players must guess prices of two small prizes to win X's to place on the blank board. They must place the X's in position to guess the location of the titular Secret X, hidden in the center column of the board, and form a tic-tac-toe line across or diagonally. There are no O's in this variant of the game. On Minute to Win It, the game Ping-Tac-Toe has one contestant playing the game with 9 water-filled glasses and white and orange ping-pong balls, trying to get 3 in a row of either color. They must alternate colors after each successful landing and must be careful not to block themselves.